Let's return now to one of our top stories. Australia has struck a deal with China that could pave the way for wine tariffs to be scrapped. It comes as the Prime Minister reveals he will head to Beijing and Shanghai next month in what would be the first visit by an Australian leader since 2016. But has it come too little too late? Joining me is Brokenwood's senior winemaker, Stuart Hordern. Stuart, thank you so much for joining us. What's your reaction to this and how promising is this news?
Good morning. Look, it's good news. We're very optimistic, though slightly cautious. There's 5 months to go until we get the details, but certainly things seem to be pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, still 5 months to go, so some time for things to change. But tell us about Brokenwood and just how big of an impact the tariffs have had on production.
Look, it's been a pretty tough, challenging couple of years for the wine industry. So the impact to us has been minimal directly. We haven't been a big exporter historically to China. It's certainly been a small part of our business, but widely speaking, industry-wise, it's really changed the competition in existing markets. So whether that be domestically or internationally in existing export markets. So a lot of wines had to find an alternative, a market that used to be China. China was our largest export market, and that is a market that's very difficult to replace quickly.
So have you had to diversify, and has that at least helped in the last few years?
I think for us, it's made us really prioritise our existing markets that we've had, so that existing export markets such as the UK, the US and Canada, and obviously here domestically. And I think focusing on our domestic visitation here to the Hunter Valley, but also supporting our restaurateurs and retailers with their offering. But that market has been much more competitive because there's been wine that historically was destined to China has had to come back into those other markets.
We were talking earlier with Australian grapes and wine, and they were saying that before the tariffs came into place, the industry in Australia was about $1.2 billion by way of investment, but that's significantly dropped off. How long do you think, if at all, will it ever go back to being that profitable?
Look, I think it will take time, even if the market comes back on as expected in the next few months. It won't be all on immediately. It will take time. I think producers will need to rebuild those relationships with importers, exporters, and distributors. So it will take time, but just knowing that market is accessible to wine producers really opens up opportunities for the Australian grape and wine industry in a pretty tough circumstance at the moment, to be honest. So it's very welcome news.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to see additional government support, particularly in the interim? It's still a long way to go, as you said, about 5 months before anything could possibly happen. Would you like to see additional support and for the government to foot the bill and give the industry some security at the very least?
Look, at the moment, things seem to be pointing in the right direction, and there seems to be a bit of momentum coming back towards us. So right now, we're probably happy to see that and make sure that it does what we're talking about is actually delivered in 5 months' time. I think there'll be more cause for celebration once that is finalised. At the moment, to be honest, we're just happy to hear that things are moving along and there's a bit of progress in what's been a really, really tough couple of years for the industry. Losing China and a couple of quite wet, challenging seasons means that any good news is welcome at this particular point to the wider grape and wine industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And which varieties in particular do you think that China will be jumping on first?
Look, historically, the Chinese market's been very focused on red wine. So I think things like Cabernet Sauvignon and Shiraz are the things that they've historically taken. I guess we'll find out where things are at once the market's back open as to whether those things continue to be the stalwarts of what we export. Certainly there's capacity in the greater Australian wine industry for those varieties currently. So we'll see as the details come out. Hopefully this upcoming trip reaps rewards.
Well, look, hopefully. I mean, why do you think China has made this decision now? We know arguably that Australia has some of the best wine in the world. Do you think it realised that it does need Australian wine?
I think everyone eventually realises they need more Australian wine. Look, I think our quality and pedigree of the wines that we make here in Australia are second to none. And I think that losing a market the size of China has been a challenge for us. But I think we are a resilient industry. Anyone in agriculture knows that optimism is the key, and toughing it out until the tide turns is really what we're all about. So I think we really welcome this news, and hopefully, as I said, hopefully it comes to fruition.
Yeah, look, fingers crossed. Before we let you go, Stuart, you mentioned it's been a wet few seasons. How's it looking for you out there, and what's ahead?
Look, it's middle of spring. Everything looks excellent here in the Hunter currently. The vines are growing quickly. It's been a warm, dry winter. An inch or two right now wouldn't go astray, to say the least. But look, we can generally moderate with irrigation. A dry season for us is probably what we're chasing after a couple of challenging ones. But the vineyards look pretty as a picture right now, and I'd commend all the viewers to come up to the Hunter Valley for a visit as soon as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went to Brokenwood, as you know, a couple of years ago, and it was quite an experience. So fingers crossed it'll be the same again this time round. Stuart Hordern, always good to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us.